Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Cory. I'm your host, Cory Smith, here to discuss some NC State men's basketball after a historic beatdown of UNC on Tuesday night. I keep wanting to say Saturday. I don't know why. I feel like it's the weekend or something. But a historic beatdown for NC State against UNC on Tuesday night. NC State wins by 24 points. As you've heard at this point, the highest margin of victory for NC State since 1962. This is the highest margin of victory for a first-year head coach by NC State over UNC. The previous, I believe, 6 coaches that had gotten a win over UNC the first year that they were with the program did so by a combined 19 points. That was a stat that was put out by Tim Peeler last night. And Will Wade beats this team by 24 points. Now, I know every UNC fan on the internet, probably in your office, at the school where you're picking up your kid, anywhere and everywhere, or, if you run into them, I don't know, if you're a high schooler running into them on high school campus or something along those lines, every single person is going to tell you, well, you did it without Caleb Wilson. You did it without Henry Vasar. But look, man, like 2, 3 years, 5 years from now, nobody's going to remember that, first of all. And second of all, it still goes down as a massive win. And I know I had a lot of UNC fans in my mentions this morning telling me, well, when they go to do the resumes and they go to look at, where they're going to seed people, they're going to look at this and know that, the personnel that UNC had wasn't what they're usually at. So it's not going to matter as much. Well, based off of what we see from places like the Net, Bart Torvik, and Ken Palm, and then also I want to make sure I get this pulled up here too, because I want to give my guy, Evan Mia. God, I knew I was going to screw that up. Evan Miyakawa, I want to give him a shout out too, because I want to see where he has NC State ranked now at this point too. But you look at just as of right now, where things stand coming out of last night, NC State currently in the Net, which is, the ranking that is used, not the end all be all, but, the main one that's used. NC State's at number 25 overall. That's a jump from number 29. And then in Bart Torvik's rankings, they jumped 7 spots, which was up to number 23. And then that was the same in Ken Palm, but it was an 8-point jump from Ken Palm, which previously had NC State at number 31 overall. And they're able to end up moving up to number 23. Just realized I hadn't drank a single bit of this coffee. And so, looking at that win as a whole, yes, I'm sure once you get to the end of the season, sure, maybe it's not going to mean as much if, Caleb Wilson comes back or Henry Vasar comes back and, UNC just looks like another juggernaut of a team. But at the same time, if UNC is able to do that and they're able to rattle off some wins, say they beat some good teams down the stretch, say they make a little bit of a run in the ACC tournament, that retains this as a quality quad 1 win for NC State, which puts them, I mentioned this last night on the podcast, 4-6 overall against quad 1 opponents. That's a great mark. Like, that's about as good as you can ask for, given the way things started. NC State was 0-4 in non-conference. In the 6 quad 1 opponents they faced so far in the ACC, they're now 4-2 in ACC play. So they've done a lot of backloading on the schedule, and then 9-1 in quad 2 games so far. The only quad 2 loss, unfortunately, that game against Miami, but Miami's right on the cusp. Miami's the number 35 team in the Net, have a chance to potentially move up and maybe be a quad 1 game. Not that really changes the resume a ton, but if they do move up and they're inside the top 30, you go to 4-7 overall in quad 1, which means you played more quad 1 games. That helps your Net, helps your overall resume. And then, in quad 2, you'd be 9-0. And that means, basically kind of like that middle of the pack, good teams, not great teams. They may not make it to the NCAA tournament. Like, pretty sure Miami, VCU are both going to make it to the NCAA tournament right now, if we were to talk about it. Virginia Tech on that line right now. And then a couple others that are on that resume, like, Florida State has a chance to kind of move up inside the top 75. If they do that, that win on the road, which, mind you, was 113-69, could move up to a quad 1 as well. Now, it'd be the bottom end of the quad 1, but still, there's other options here that other teams could potentially move up and be, higher quad wins for NC State. And then, there's also the chance of Wake Forest that sits at 65 could slide out. So we'll see what that ultimately lands at later in all of this. But just to get back to the win as a whole, the big thing I wanted to talk about was how NC State bought in to this game, because we saw the last two games, the Louisville win, maybe you got up, or Louisville lost, maybe you got up a little bit too high. Maybe this team, coming off of what they did the previous Saturday, the fact that they had 6 straight wins overall, went in a little high, thinking like, all right, let's go in, let's get a big win here, and let's keep this thing rolling, as opposed to kind of locking in, despite the fact that they went in early. They get, blown out by, look, man, Michael Brown Jr., legend, like his legacy game, whatever you want to call it. And then obviously Ryan Conwell, huge game for him in that one. And in the Miami game, they look locked in, but you make mistakes down the stretch. And you kind of let off a little bit. You let off the gas pedal a little bit at the end. You're up, you go on an 11-0 run, and it's like, all right, we're up by 7 points with, less than a minute left to go. All we got to do is run out the clock, just do little things down the stretch, and we'll be fine. And then they let off the gas pedal, and Miami's able to make a comeback. So you learn from those two games, and you put it all together. Look, I think a lot of people kind of thought, hey, man, NC State should be heavily favored, maybe more favored than they were at 5.5 or 6.5 or whatever it was by the end. And because of the fact that we knew Caleb Wilson, Henry Vasar were probably not going to play in this game, we knew Caleb Wilson wasn't. Henry Vasar announced 2 hours beforehand. Didn't really think he was going to play in the first place. But NC State had to go into this game more locked in than ever, because you can't, you physically cannot lose that game. So while I know a lot of people are going, oh, well, whatever, UNC doesn't matter for them because blah, 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 but all the pressure was applied to NC State right before that game. You find out they're going to be without their 2 best players. You lose to that on your home court, sure. It may go down as a quad 1 loss, whatever. But in the rivalry, you are never going to live that down. Losing, that's a lot of us brought up Ben Finley last night, and kind of, the reason why you still bring up Ben Finley is because of the fact that he was a the 4th string quarterback, literally started the season on the practice squad. And NC State was able to go in to UNC and beat them. Granted, it was a close game, but still, you go in and beat them. That's what UNC was trying to do last night, trying to figure out anything and everything they possibly could. And they were not able to match NC State's intensity. They were not able to match NC State's shooting. The only way UNC was going to get a win in that game yesterday was great 3-point defense, which they're not very good at. They're giving up 40% shooting from behind the arc in ACC play so far this season. And NC State shot 45%. So that got even worse for them. Sorry about that. The other part here is they needed to shoot well from 3-point range to be able to keep up, because they weren't going to be able to bang as much inside. Obviously, guys like Zayden Hyde, Jaron Stevenson were able to have good games, but 26 points from your 2 bigs, if you're not getting anything else from your guards, is not going to get the job done. Derek Dixon going 1 of 9 from 3-point range. Seth Trimble going 0 for 3, 1 of 9 overall. Seth Trimble is supposed to be the guy that's locking up, other guards, and he got absolutely locked up last night by NC State's defense, was not able to get easy shots off by any stretch. The only way that he really scored was hitting 1 jumper and then going 2 of 4 from the free throw line. That was it. That was all Seth Trimble gave you. So, again, and yeah, as Jonathan's saying here, they exposed UNC for their bad guard play. Their backcourt isn't good enough. Yeah, and I think that was the thought process going into this. And that's why a lot of UNC fans are like, I completely disregard this game. Well, it also says a lot about your team if you're, yes, your 2 best players are out. Your only 2 great rebounders are out. But you build a team of $15 million, maybe more than that, and you only ended up with, 2 players that are good enough to get you wins? That's not good. That's that's not good enough of a roster to be able to build up and down, especially when, I'm going through all the different things that happened last night and trying to figure out, what do we write about first? Like, there's so many key NC State performances. What do we write about first? Luckily, I'd already written something about Darian Williams and the performance that he had in that game. Him coming back from face planting, literally face planting, not that sort of face planting, like falling from midair type thing, busted his eyebrow. You see blood pouring out. He goes back, hockey style, gets some stitches, runs back out. That's a story. Paul McNeil, 10 points in this game, 4 of 6 overall, 2 of 4 from three-point range. He graded out Paul McNeil, mind you. Nobody's talking about Paul McNeil much from last night. He graded out with the highest grade of anybody on NC State's roster, according to KenPom, with like 179 offensive rating. That's massive. So, like, yes, he didn't take a ton of shots last night, but he still made a huge impact. And then Quadir Copeland, obviously, he's been having an unbelievable season. 20 points, 7-16 shooting, not great numbers for him, but 6 of 8 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. Like, if this game is tight, if UNC is remotely competitive, which they absolutely were not at any point after, I'd say maybe the 10-minute mark of the first half, it was not even close after that point. And he played, a little bit more competitively for those 32 minutes that he played, or maybe more in this game if he was needed. He probably ends up with a triple-double. There's been several games where he's been that close, and that's a story in and of itself. Van Lubin revenge game, and he comes out 12 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists in this game, 1 steal in this game, and played, mind you, exactly 28 minutes. It's a unique number there, just for just whatever reason. Matt Able, 19 points, career high for him. Second straight game he's had a career high, and he does that as a freshman when UNC's missing their best freshman, and no other freshmen step up really for UNC in this game. So again, this feels like one of those games for NC State where you really see, and I know, again, the level of competition, people are going to say whatever, it was UNC, but the fact that it was UNC and the fact that they didn't have their 2 best players, and you bought in at that level, that many guys produced for you and that many guys fought, like Moussa Sanye diving on the floor in the second half to get a rebound when NC State's up by like 18 or 20 points. Darian Williams coming back from a head injury that probably could have kept him out for the rest of the game. Hey man, rest up, give us the next week until until we go into UVA next week. Nah, I'm not doing that. Throw a jersey on me. I'll throw a Ben Middlebrooks throwback jersey on from last year until you can get me the number 1. Blood all over the number 1 jersey. We'll see if that ends up. Paul Iron brought up a pretty good point that the NIL collective needs to cut that uniform up and sell it off for parts for NIL usage for partially for him, but also maybe put a little bit away for next year too. We'll see how that ends up working, but just again, so many different elements of this game gave you an idea of what this team can truly be when they're locked in. And I think, to me, like, that's one of the bigger takeaways, is the fact that you step back and you look at it and you say, all right, you learn from the fact that you didn't come out of the gate strong enough against Louisville. You learn from the fact that you haven't played well enough at home at times. Go back to the Georgia Tech game. You go back to even the Virginia game before that. You got off the slow starts. This team absolutely did not do that on Tuesday night. And that comes with Trey Holloman getting injured on the first play. It comes with Darian Williams getting injured shortly afterwards. He only played the first few minutes, goes off for 7 points, 3 of 3 shooting to start the game, and had like a crazy look in his eye, like he's about to go off, and then gets injured. And then NC State's still able to rally. You still have enough players that, yes, I know UNC didn't have their best players, but NC State was down early and then loses Moussa Sanye. Like, you're only true big outside of Van Lubin because you didn't have Scotty Abube in this game. So you absolutely needed him to be able to be healthy and help to produce a little bit. He ends up playing 13 minutes of this game, but rolled his ankle early, and NC State's still able to rally from all of those things early on to jump out to a double-digit lead early and then just run away with it late because it was, again, NC State's locked in. UNC had just kind of come to terms with, all right, man, like, we've got an excuse. We can kind of, sit out this one and say, all right, well, we didn't have our best players. We'll see what happens next time. And that's not what NC State was all about in this game. And I think that, to me, is the biggest takeaway that I have from this one, is just the absolute buy-in from NC State and what it can look like for them and how much does that translate? Because, again, the schedule doesn't get much easier. We know moving forward, you have several other opportunities, but the next one up, UVA, a team that you lost to, you got trounced to earlier on in the season, it will be a quad one game. Win or lose, it'll be on your resume as a quad one game. So that helps the net, that helps your overall ranking, all those different factors. And then, the next portion here too is the fact that you're going to go on the road to a Notre Dame team, not a very good team, but we'll see where that ends up landing. Probably quad three, or actually I think it's still quad two right now. And then you come home, play a really good Duke team. You play a good Stanford team that has some really good pieces. Not a great Stanford team, but a good enough team to pull off an upset on an emotional day, a senior night for a lot of guys. Darian Williams, Quadir Copeland, Jordan Snell, Vinal Lubin, all these different guys. There's a lot of different players that are going to be celebrating their senior days during that ceremony. Trey Holloman as well, one of them. I know I'm blanking on a couple others, and I apologize if anybody gets upset with me, but all these different guys that are going to be celebrating that. So you have to get over the emotions. And again, jumping back in, getting locked in really helps NC State to try to get to that point. So I just think, again, all of those different factors kind of jump in here. And then, again, back to the resume. I want to actually, let me pull this up really quickly because I had it pulled up and then I lost it again. Let's see the team ratings so far for Evan Mia too. He has NC State at number 24 now, which is a pretty significant jump too. I didn't have it beforehand, but again, he also has the NC State roster rank at number 23. So again, that kind of shows you that, maybe this team could play up a little bit more higher above this level. There's a few teams ahead of them that have worse roster ranks, like Nebraska, not as good of a roster rank. Utah State, St. Louis, not as good of a roster overall, but NC State still has a better roster and could still kind of play up a little bit more to where they're at. And I just think, again, all of those factors taken into account here, you've got a chance to take this, build on it, and really show that you can not only play against a downtrodden UNC team that's losing some pieces, but you can do that against really good teams in the ACC too. James had a good question here. He said, where do you think we end up at the end of the season in terms of the standings in the ACC? I think ideal scenario here, these last 4 games, obviously ideal scenario for NC State for Will Wade would be to go to 4-0 and be able to come out, what would that be, 14-4 in 18 games? That would be the absolute best case scenario. That's exactly what you want. I think you're probably looking at 3-1. If NC State's able to come out of this 3-1, that maybe puts them back inside the top 4 in the ACC. If you beat either Duke or UVA, if you're able to beat UVA, there's a chance that you could potentially jump them. You're probably not jumping. I don't think you can jump Duke at all right now. Duke is 13-1, so you'd be just behind them anyways. But there's still a chance to be able to jump some of these other teams for NC State, like a Miami, like a Clemson, like Virginia. So you need all those teams to lose, and you need Miami to lose a couple games because Miami right now at 10 wins just beat Virginia Tech last night. Obviously, if you're able to beat Virginia, still tough to get that tiebreaker because you did lose to them earlier in the season, but there's still a chance. And then Clemson is the obvious one. You have the tiebreaker over them, and now the team, one of the teams right behind you, UNC, happens to be 8-5 overall, Louisville 8-5. So you need for, if one of those teams is going to go off and finish strong, you need it to be UNC more than you do Louisville because you don't have the tiebreaker over Louisville. You do over UNC. I'm not saying root for UNC. I'm not telling NC State fans to ever do that. I know you won't. But if you're rooting for one of those two teams, then you're probably going, okay, well, it would be better if UNC won than Louisville because then you wouldn't have a chance to fall outside of the top 4 in the ACC if you lose a game at Virginia or against Duke at home. So again, all those different things come into account here for NC State. That's what you need right now. You need to be able to continue to stack wins. Again, I think 3-1, finishing 13-5 in the ACC. First of all, that helps you significantly in the seed line. Like, you're no longer discussing NCAA tournament bubble. I don't think NC State's been discussing the bubble, even regardless of what Will Wade might have said the other day. I don't think this team is really discussing the NCAA tournament bubble. But if you're able to, stack a couple more, maybe 3 more wins either UVA or Duke, or again, if you get both, then you're really put yourself in a great position. But really need to be able to get a good one here for NC State to be able to kind of continue to put together this strong resume. So thank you guys again to everybody for listening. We will have much more content from this game leading up to UVA next week, and we'll also have plenty of baseball content in the coming days. We'll also have some women's basketball content in the coming days, even some football content as we continue to barrel towards the start of spring camp. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will talk to you again soon.